For nearly a quarter century, I was closely connected to a woman decades older than me who was extremely proud of her Mormon heritage, including the polygamy. One of her ancestors crossed the plains with Brigham and the gang, later becoming a polygamist himself with 6 wives, a modest number among some Mormon leaders at that time, and nearly 24 children. Her pride was a bit strange to me. She was, to put it mildly, quite the prude. I always had to watch my language around her, and I was always careful never to make a sexual reference. Finally, after years of curiosity, I finally asked her, if your husband had come home one day and said to you that God had told him to have another, would she have gone with it and welcomed her sister wife into the family? Oh, heavens no, she said, seeming somewhat disgusted by the idea. Apparently, pride has its limits. Mormons stopped practicing polygamy semi-officially in the late 19th century, but Mormons have never abandoned the idea theologically. They can't, really. Their founder, Joseph Smith, practiced polygamy, as did Brigham Young, with some 80 to 100 wives between them, some as young as 14. I've had 2 wives myself, but like all genuinely harsh sentences, my marriages ran consecutively rather than concurrently. Polygamy is still a very real concern for some Mormon men and women, because Mormons believe that marriage continues into the next life, a practice called eternal marriage. Believers are sealed to each other in Mormon temples for time and all eternity. Mormon men who are widowed or divorced can be sealed to another woman. This is not the case for Mormon women, not without first obtaining a temple divorce from the husband to whom they were already sealed. And these temple divorces are not always easy to secure for the women. I'm told the paperwork is incredibly invasive. Mormon men can be sealed to as many women as they like because Mormons believe that polygamy, or plural marriage as they call it, is an eternal principle, meaning that Mormon men will, or at least can, have many wives in the next life, while Mormon women are limited to just one husband. Seems fair to me. Some Mormons believe God himself has many wives, and yes, God is a man, according to Mormons, a corporeal being who became God, and gives Mormon men the opportunity to do likewise. The idea of a mother in heaven, at least one, is also nearly official doctrine, even working its way into Mormon hymns. Apostle Parley P. Pratt taught that God has or may have many wives, one of whom now might be Mary. Yes, that Mary, which is in no way incestuous unless you consider the fact that it totally is. It certainly gives a new twist to the Mormon hymn, I am a child of God. The thing that boggles the mind, at least my mind, is how Mormon women, like the one I talked about earlier, would never go for this idea now. In fact, they would find it disgusting, perverted, even immoral, and entirely misogynistic. But somehow, that doesn't translate into doubting or even questioning the claims of divine communion and command made by the Mormon prophets who practiced plural marriage. And some of them had a lot of practice. I don't quite know what to make of that. To me, Joseph Smith was a kind of super horny misanthropic genius, figuring out a way to do something that men from time immemorial had been wanting to do. Elevate the male urge for sexual variety to a state of reverence and glory, going so far as granting its expression the imprimatur of God Almighty himself. Even L. Ron Hubbard didn't have balls that big. Before I became a foreman, most of the Mormon women I knew understood polygamy in just this way and were deeply troubled by it. They never raised a stink, but there was certainly a lot of eye-rolling going on behind the men's backs. Strangely, while they would never accept the idea of a man having multiple wives today, they never seemed equally troubled by the bifurcation of their minds required to embrace or at least tolerate so much cognitive dissonance. As always, I'm me. Thanks for watching.